Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. On behalf of the Lead Center, I would like to welcome everyone, and we are so glad you've joined us today to learn more about building infrastructure for good jobs, creating opportunities for people with disabilities in the construction industry. Through the Good Jobs Initiative, or GJI, the U.S. Department of Labor is focused on improving job quality and creating access to good jobs for all working people, including people with disabilities. Today, we're going to look to the construction industry to learn how inclusive hiring practices, including equitable workforce development pathways like pre-apprenticeship and registered apprenticeship programs, as well as labor management partnerships, have benefited employees with disabilities and their employers. Today's webinar is hosted by the Center on Leadership for the Employment and Economic Advancement of People with Disabilities, or LEAD Center. We are a Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act Policy Development Center. The LEAD Center is led by National Disability Institute and is funded by the Office of Disability Employment Policy at the U.S. Department of Labor. Together, we facilitate the adoption and integration of inclusive WIOA programs, policies, and practices through research, technical assistance, and demonstration projects. Can move to the next slide. My name is Sarah Loazo, and I will be the facilitator for today. I am a white woman with brown hair. I have a black blouse on today with pink flowers. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am also with the National Disability Institute and the LEAD Center. Go to the next slide. So a little bit of housekeeping. To ensure that everyone can participate fully in today's webinar, we would like to take a moment to share just a few captioning and housekeeping tips. Today's webinar is live captioned, and the captions appear below the slide deck. You also have the option to open the captioning webpage in a new browser, and the links have been posted in the chat or will be momentarily. Once the captioning window opens on your own system, you can adjust the background color, the text color, and the fonts using the drop-down menus at the top of the browser. Also, this webinar is being recorded and will be archived along with supporting materials on the LEAD Center website under the recent and upcoming events page within 10 business days. Thank you. The next slide. Now, we really encourage you to ask any questions that you might have about the content that's covered today. At any point, you can click on the question and answer button that's located on the webinar's menu bar, and this will bring up the question and answer panel or window into which you can type questions for our presenters. We will save time at the end for a question and answer period. Also, use the chat box if you're experiencing any technical issues or have questions for the technical support team. Please just type that question into the chat box. So to provide a welcome and opening remarks, it is my pleasure to introduce Assistant Secretary Taryn McKenzie Williams. She is the Assistant Secretary for the Disability Employment Policy at the U.S. Department of Labor. In her position, she advises the Secretary of Labor on how the department's policies and programs impact the employment of people with disabilities and leads the Office of Disability Employment Policy, which works with employers and all levels of government to promote evidence-based policy that improves employment opportunities and outcomes for people with disabilities. Previously, Assistant Secretary Williams was the Managing Director for the Poverty to Prosperity program at American Progress. Before joining American Progress, she worked at the Office of Disability Employment Policy on a variety of issues related to education and workforce policy. Thank you so much for joining us today, Assistant Secretary Williams. I will now turn it over to you.
Thank you so much for that introduction. And hello, everyone. I am Taryn Williams. My pronouns are she, her. I am a Black woman with shoulder length curly hair. I am wearing a lavender jacket with a floral scarf. And I am so excited to be here today and to further the conversation on creating good jobs. As Sarah mentioned, I have the honor of serving as Assistant Secretary for Disability Employment Policy. And in that role, I lead our Office of Disability Employment Policy, or ODEP, or ODEP for short. And it's something that I'm so proud of is the Department of Labor's focus on investing in all of America's workers and job seekers. Our administration, under the leadership of President Biden, believes that we must build an economy from the middle out and from the bottom up. And put another way, Acting Secretary Sue's vision for the department is centered around increasing equity and access to good jobs with robust enforcement, with economic opportunity, and ensuring that workers are empowered. Equity, enforcement, and empowerment. And this means focusing the department's resources on advancing equity and opportunity for people of color, for women, and for communities that have historically been left behind, including people with disabilities. Congress established ODEP a little over 20 years ago to create a federal agency dedicated to working across policies, programs, federal agencies, and with external stakeholders to promote the employment of people with disabilities. And it's on behalf of ODEP and DOL that I welcome you to today's webinar, a follow-up to our webinar back in October on the Good Jobs Initiative. Our topic for today's webinar is ensuring access and equity in new construction jobs, made possible by the historic investments made by the Biden administration through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. At DOL, we've been focused on ensuring that good jobs created are accessible to historically underserved groups, and that includes people with disabilities and those who are multiply marginalized. And that's why we're so thrilled to examine these topics together, not only through the lens of employers, but also on the impact that these good jobs have on disabled workers. I want to note that this year is, in its own right, an historic year. It marks the 25th anniversary of Olmstead, or the Olmstead decision, which was a landmark U.S. Supreme Court case that mandates that individuals with disabilities be in the most integrated setting possible. And as we all know, good jobs are a critical factor in allowing people with disabilities to be independent and to work in integrated environments and to thrive in their communities. So I'm really excited to hear the stories from our panelists. I want to thank the Lead Center for hosting this webinar, and also to our partner, Paige Shevlin, for representing the U.S. Department of Transportation on this webinar. ODEP is so grateful to work with you and for our continued collaboration in advancing disability inclusion. And with that, I'll pass it back to Sarah, and I look forward to a great discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant Secretary Williams, very much. So to help set the context on the Good Jobs Initiative, it is now my privilege to introduce Paige Shevlin, who is the Strategic Advisor for Infrastructure Workforce Development at the U.S. Department of Transportation. In her role, she is responsible for implementing the bipartisan infrastructure law in a way that promotes high-quality jobs and greater diversity in the infrastructure workforce. Paige has extensive experience in federal and local government with a focus on job training, higher education, and social insurance programs. Page was the Economic Development Policy Advisor to the King County Executive in Washington State. Page was responsible for working with the regional organizations to create economic and workforce development strategies for the county. A principal focus of her work was reallocating workforce funding to reduce racial disparities in workforce outcomes, services and outcomes. Prior to her time in local government, Page served in the Obama administration as Special Assistant to the President for Economic Policy at the White House National Economic Council. She was responsible for leading the development of labor market policies, including the Vice President's job-driven training initiative and policy decisions relating to regulations of the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, also known as WIOA. Page has also held appointed positions at the Council of Economic Advisors and the Department of Labor. Prior to joining the Obama administration, she was the Assistant Policy Director at the Hamilton Project at the Brookings Institution and an Assistant Analyst at the Congressional Budget Office. Page holds a bachelor's in economics from Wellesley College and a master's in public affairs from Princeton University. Paige, we're so glad to have you here today. I'll hand it now over to you.
Thank you. I'm really wishing I had given a shorter bio, but thank you for that great introduction. As she said, my name is Paige Shevlin. I'm going to try and do the introductions correctly. I have long curly hair. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a white woman. I think I got that all out. And I'm so excited to be here today to talk about the work that the Department of Transportation has been doing really to foster the inclusion of all underrepresented populations in the construction workforce, but obviously today focusing on people with disabilities. We recently put out a report from the Department of Transportation on this topic exactly. This was actually a request from Congress as a part of the bipartisan infrastructure law. And I think that that's worth noting because it was actually part of the statute that DOT needed to address the barriers to entering the construction workforce for populations that have been underrepresented. And the statute actually did call out specifically people with disabilities, as well as some other underrepresented populations. So what we did at the Department of Transportation, working very much in partnership with the Department of Labor, is that we found organizations that are doing a great job of getting underrepresented populations into good paying construction jobs. And you'll get the chance to hear from two of those organizations today. We wanted to make sure that the organizations were, that we found organizations that have expertise around people with disabilities. We also looked for organizations with expertise around people reentering from the criminal justice system, women, which are underrepresented in construction, and opportunity youth. And we put together a set of characteristics that are important for workforce programs that serve underrepresented populations well. And we found 8 characteristics overall. And then we layered on top of those the characteristics that seemed important for certain population groups, including people with disabilities. And so I wanted to share just a little bit about the characteristics overall that are important. I think many of these will be familiar to you because I think they're also the characteristics that the Department of Labor would put forward for good workforce programs overall. Many of them are also similar to the Department of Labor's quality guidelines for pre-apprenticeship programs. So first, strong partnerships between industry and the community-based organizations and with unions, because construction is such a high union density has such a high union density. So it's very important to work with unions. The second, individualized case management. The third, sufficient funding for supportive services, especially access to vehicles and driver's licenses, because that access to transportation is critical for construction workers who need to go from project to project. Fourth, stipends for time spent in training. Fifth, mentorship. Sixth, exposure to a variety of construction careers. Seventh is that the training program, the curriculum itself, is developed in partnership with industry. So not just having employer partnerships, but also making sure that that informs the curriculum. And then the eighth, tracking results, because otherwise, how will we know it works? So we would say that those are important for all underrepresented populations. And then when we look specifically at the organizations that were working with people with disabilities and what was unique about those organizations, what we found were three characteristics. The first is advocacy to employers about the skills that workers with disabilities have. The second is support for employers on providing accommodations. And the third is the use of adaptive technology in training. And we have more details on this in our report. The one I do want to touch on is just the advocacy to employers. And again, I would say to unions as well, since unions do play such an important role. I set in on some of the conversations with nonprofit partners that are doing workforce programs. And many of those workforce organizations don't have a great understanding of the spectrum of disabilities. That was clear. And just for context, in my personal life, one of my children has a disability. He has an IEP in school, and I do a lot of work for our Committee on Special Education that informs the school board. And so I thought about that a lot, right? Because the spectrum of disabilities is so wide, right? And it goes from, people who are neurodivergent and, autistic or may have ADHD, people with chronic health conditions, people who have physical disabilities, and many others, which you all know and are aware of. That certainly was not clear to the majority of organizations that we talk to, even organizations that are serving people with disabilities, but they don't know it, right? So a great example there were, people who are coming out of the justice system. Many people coming out of the justice system have mental health impairments that would qualify as a disability, but that's not the way it's seen by the organizations that were serving them. And so when you ask employers, when you ask unions about, do you work with, do you have people with disabilities in your workforce? Their answer is like, no. And that wouldn't be possible because, it's, hard labor or something like that, right? So they fail to understand both the adaptations that are possible for physical disabilities, which is mainly what they're thinking of. They're thinking about it with that physical disability lens. And they also are not understanding the full spectrum of disabilities and how some of those may have no impact whatsoever on the skills that are needed for construction work. So I just wanted to provide that additional context. I think this is a really important topic, one that I know DOL is really focused on and is really important to DOT as well. I should also mention we have a wonderful disability policy advisor, Kelly Buckland, who is an amazing advocate for people with disabilities across the transportation sector. So both Kelly and I and the whole department are very focused on this issue, and looking forward to having the opportunity for all of you to learn from able-disabled advocacy and adaptive construction solutions. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Sarah.
Thank you so much, Paige. I appreciate that. So let's talk about what we're going to learn today. So throughout this webinar, we're going to gain an overview of the Good Jobs principles and IIA projects, which can serve as a vehicle for matching people with disabilities in competitive integrated employment opportunities in the field of construction and other infrastructure jobs. We're going to hear some real world examples of people with disabilities working in these good jobs in the construction industry today, which I am really excited about. Go to the next slide. Throughout this webinar, participants are going to explore strategies that can assist employers in benefiting from employees with disabilities in their workforce, including employees with significant disabilities. And we're going to meet business leaders in construction who are going to discuss the contributions people with disabilities have made to the workforce. So with that, move to the next slide. It is my pleasure to introduce the moderator for today's discussion, Anupa Givarghese. She is the Chief of Staff, the Office of Disability Employment Policy at the U.S. Department of Labor. She works closely with the leaders there to identify and implement strategies for increasing the number and quality of employment opportunities for people with disabilities. And in doing so, Anupa draws on years of legal experience in both the public and nonprofit sectors. So Anupa, I'm going to hand it over to you, and I can't wait to hear the discussion.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for that warm introduction. Thank you, Assistant Secretary Williams, for your introduction to the Department of Labor and ODEP's work in this space. And also a big thank you to Strategic Advisor Shevlin for your work at DOT to foster disability inclusion in the construction industry. At DOL, we believe every worker, including workers with disabilities, deserve a good job. Disabled workers deserve a just day's pay for a hard day's work. Disabled workers deserve to live and work in the community. And workers with disabilities deserve the right to a good job, free from discrimination. And the Department of Labor's Good Jobs Initiative demonstrates the Biden-Harris administration's commitment to these principles by opening the doors to all workers to improve job quality and access to good jobs. Our fundamental belief that good jobs change lives informs our 8 good jobs principles, which range from recruitment to career advancement that benefits everyone, including people with disabilities. Today, we're excited to witness these good jobs principles in action in the construction industry. We have 2 very, very exciting panels. Our first panel includes Adaptive Construction Solutions, also known as ACS, who will share how they solve workforce challenges while transforming lives through expanding economic opportunity and mobility. And our second panel, Able Disabled Advocacy, Inc., also known as ADA, will show how they support youth, military veterans, adults with disabilities, and others seeking employment through vocational skills training and educational advancement. I'd like to introduce our first panel, Adaptive Construction Solutions. Dr. Marty Leathers serves as Executive Vice President of ACS. He is from Houston, Texas. Also from Houston is Jonathan Rodriguez, an apprentice at ACS. Marty, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I appreciate that great introduction, and it's been terrific to hear from the speakers so far, many that I've had the pleasure to work with back in my days in government, but also now to work alongside in the private sector. Adaptive Construction Solutions is very excited to be a part of this conversation. Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Marty Leathers. I'm a Vice President at Adaptive Construction Solutions. I'm a white male. I am wearing a green and blue shirt, a black vest, and I have a short beard. At ACS, our mission is to expand economic opportunity in partnership with employers and to provide life-changing opportunities through the purpose of work. We do this by prioritizing a jobs-first focus that mitigates the failures of traditional train and pray models. ACS has been an apprenticeship sponsor since 2016, and we have served nearly 1,500 apprentices across 23 occupations. 80% of our apprentices have identified as a veteran, and nearly 19% have self-identified as having a disability. While we work across multiple sectors, construction represents the largest percentage of our apprentices. At ACS, we serve as the leading expert on prevailing wage compliance and apprenticeship requirements under the Inflation Reduction Act, in addition to operating federal programs as an ABA grantee, an HVRP grantee, and a CETO grantee. ACS also provides strategic leadership across the globe as a member of the Global Apprenticeship Network, where we have served as special advisors to the International Organization of Employers and the International Labor Organization. Last summer, for the 111th International Labor Conference, ACS served as special advisors for the passage of the recommendation for standards for quality apprenticeships, the first time ever that quality apprenticeship standards have been adopted globally and have helped feed policymaking here in the United States. At ACS, we don't just help our employers identify the outstanding talent of individuals with disabilities. We make up an organization of individuals who thrive every day in the workforce. One ACS All-Star is Jonathan Rodriguez, and I'm excited to introduce Jonathan to speak to us today.
Thank you, Marty. My name is Jonathan Rodriguez. I am a male with black hair, and I'm wearing a red shirt. It's an honor to be here. I am an apprentice at Adaptive Construction Solutions for the Occupational Career Development Technician. Through this journey, I have learned all the skills needed to work in the construction field, from learning the basics in safety to learning all the hand and power tools and how to use them properly. This program has also taught me how the apprenticeship program works from beginning to completion. Fortunately, I have worked in several departments here in ACS, like in the recruiting, in the grants, and in the training department. Now, since January the 1st of 2024, I started working as an apprentice administrator, where we work with more than 8 new commercial employers. Primoris or next guest, Louis Robert, is one of the examples that one of the employers who work with us. I help since January the 1st of 2024. We have registered 7 new apprentices on board who self-identify as having a disability. Being an apprentice and working for ACS has completely changed my life. I have developed new skills, and I have used in helping new apprentices to be able to help them in this apprenticeship journey. It has, even if it's a small part, it has really impacted me, because I remember when I was first an apprentice and how I was inspired to grow and to learn everything that I've learned. I have accomplished a lot of great things, like learning new skills, being more social, being more professional and everything. And I am proud to say that 2 years ago, thanks for the tool that ACS has given me, I have accomplished one of my biggest goals, which is buying my first house for me and my family. That's one of the accomplishments that I couldn't do without ACS. So I really appreciate that. ACS has taught me a lot, and I will always be thankful for Nick and Marty and everybody who has given me the opportunities here at ACS and shown my skills. Now, like I said, it's an honor for me to be here talking with you guys and learning from more experiences as well. And now I'll pass it on to Lewis Robert from Primoris that will talk about the experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's an honor to share the floor with you. So I'm Louis Robert. I'm wearing a blue and purple checkered shirt with a brown blazer, short brown hair, and a beard. I work for Primoris Renewable Energy as the Director of Labor Compliance. I'm over our apprenticeship program and work daily with ACS to ensure we are providing pathways to careers for all that are seeking an opportunity. This is as a response of the Good Jobs Initiative. I have several unseen injuries from my military service, so it's important to me that individuals have an environment with relationships of acceptance and understanding, as we all have life accommodation needs. We have 127 apprentices, and several of them have disabilities. Along with one of our apprenticeship program staff members, also identifying as with disabilities. I was able to get a few statements from them. Primoris has a culture of accommodating people for life in general. The culture allows to better do our jobs and the willingness to show up every day. The culture of laughs, giggles, and joy, being vulnerable and not drawing attention to limitations and being treated as a human is one of the things that I like about showing up to work. Primoris, as a leader in the construction energy segment, seeks to make reasonable accommodations for any employee. And we also have developed an employee resource group for employees with disabilities so that they can inform the community and inform the company on how we affect them and how we can better serve them. The Good Jobs Initiative and working with ACS has brought an additional pathway and raised awareness to hiring individuals from all communities. And with that, I'll pass it over to Nicholas with Adaptive Construction Solutions.
Thanks, Lewis. Hello, I'm Nicholas Morgan, president of ACS. I'm a bald white male with a long gray beard wearing a gray sports jacket. Primoris has been a strategic partner for our organization, and it's very exciting to see the growth of their apprenticeship program. They build many of the nation's largest clean energy projects, and they are building a site pretty much almost in every state across the country, or plan to in the coming years. At ACS, we work with employers and the construction industry to implement and expand quality apprenticeships. This includes leaders in the clean energy industry like Primoris. As a social enterprise, ACS acts as an intermediary for employers and the labor force, mainly as playing the role of the sponsor of the registered apprenticeship. Over the years, since we started in 2016, we found that by performing the administrative and compliance roles and responsibilities, ACS, in essence, hides the wiring to make registered apprenticeship programs easier to adopt within a business. By taking on this role, ACS and our team like Jonathan, we find it easier for businesses not just to scale apprenticeships, but to use it as a model to reward high-performing individuals with career pathways within the organization and throughout the industry. Now, this also places ACS in a very unique opportunity, which by making apprenticeships more accessible for underrepresented populations, it also makes it easier for us to work with the broader workforce system. Working with persons with disabilities is a very personal topic for me. After being wounded in combat in 2006, it wasn't easy for me as I transitioned back into employment. Working to increase accessibility for persons with disabilities isn't something we only do. It is who we are as an organization. In addition to the 19% of our apprentices self-identifying as being disabled, 34% of our staff, which is nearly now 80 workforce development professionals, have self-identified as disabled. For both ACS and our partners, there's a clear ROI for the inclusion of persons with disabilities. In the field, our disabled apprentices have significantly higher completion rates than those who do not. For ACS, we have recognized that the persons with disabilities have been really critical in upholding our culture as we work to scale our business. Our people and culture team report much higher retention across the persons in our organization that are disabled. And with the passing of the Inflation Reduction Act and the CHIPS Act, ACS was very uniquely positioned to rapidly expand apprenticeships to employers while providing good jobs that offer family-sustaining careers. And today, it's led to now ACS working with 12 of the 20 largest employers in clean energy, including Primoris. A key strategy for ACS to successfully promote employment for persons with disabilities as making sure that businesses understood that for them to compete in today's workforce, they need to focus on attracting staff that their competitors fail to engage. And that will become one of the most key ingredients to their continued growth. Lastly, in my last minutes, I would like to just speak a little bit more about Jonathan. He's partially a product of the entire workforce system. He joined ACS in February of 2020 through a reverse hiring fair through a vocational rehabilitation group here in the Gulf Coast region. And even though we were going through a paid internship supported by the workforce system during the pandemic, he was critical to making sure as we transitioned to remote work with his IT background, he was really key to making sure that not that he would only have a job, but rest of our team. And today it's just so proud to see him grow. I know he's seen financially, I think he's earning 2 or 3 times what he did when he first started. So we're just really, really proud of him. And really, it's a testament to the entire workforce system, but especially Jonathan, because he puts up with us every day. And I'd like to turn it over to my next panelist.
I guess I'm supposed to introduce myself. I'm Elaine Caloris. I'm the Executive Director of Able Disabled Advocacy. Is our camera on? Yes.
Oh, sorry, Elaine. I've got you. I didn't have my mic on. So sorry. This is Anupa.
Okay, Anupa, do you want me to go ahead or do you want to introduce me?
I've got you. Thank you. So sorry. I was talking without my mic on. I just wanted to first say thank you to ACS. Your work demonstrates a really great example of how providing individualized support and training and collaborating with workforce systems partners and employers can lead to disabled people obtaining the accommodations they need to effectively work in the construction industry. ACS demonstrates the good jobs principles of organizational culture and benefits, where you create an environment where people feel comfortable to disclose. This public-private model benefits both employee and employer, as well as the public workforce system. I'd now like to introduce our second panel, Able Disabled Advocacy. Thank you, Elaine, for your patience, to hear how they are using vocation skills training to help youth with economic advancement. Here today with us are Elaine Caloris, the Executive Director of ADA, and Denise Yogers, the Youth Program Specialist at ADA. Welcome to you both.
Thank you very much. I'm Elaine Caloris. I'm a white woman with gray hair, glasses. I'm wearing a black top, and I'm sitting in a red wheelchair with a big smile on my face. Able Disabled Advocacy was founded in 1976 in San Diego, California. Our mission is to provide vocational training, life skills improvement, and educational advancement opportunities for people with disabilities, and to assist them in finding sustainable employment and overcoming barriers to personal and financial self-sufficiency. To that end, we have placed over 20,000 people into sustainable employment. Today, we currently operate programs that serve youth with disabilities, adults with disabilities, recently separated veterans, and homeless veterans. Since inception, ADA has exercised good job principles in developing our training programs. We perform extensive labor market information research every year to identify growing occupations, wages, employers who provide health benefits, who offer opportunities for career advancement. We also conduct occupational surveys of employers for them to identify jobs that they currently have or foresee, including wages, essential job duties, and descriptions. That's been very helpful for us in developing our training programs. We currently provide training for business services, information technology, and pre-apprenticeship training in construction. ADA was the first organization in our region to provide computer training for people who are blind, low vision, and who had mobility challenges. In 2001, we were one of 3 recipients of President Bush's inaugural New Freedom Initiative Award for advancing people with disabilities into employment through the use of technology. We also, through a DOL grant, the American Apprenticeship Initiative, developed the very first registered apprenticeship program in computer support specialist in the state of California. We're currently developing a cybersecurity apprenticeship under our new H-1B grant. Able Disabled Advocacy works with over 500 employers a year in placing our graduates into well-paying jobs. Since 1991, we have in place a business advisory council. Right now, we have 20 members who represent the industries that we provide training in. They are owners, operators, and human resource managers. They meet quarterly and provide us with oversight, technology guidance, labor market information. They mingle with our program graduates, provide them with resume assessments and methods to improve resumes. They do mock interviewing. They provide site visits, in some cases job shadowing, and they also hire our graduates. Let's see. Recently we became a post-secondary educational institution under the state of California. This helps us greatly in serving our veterans. You have to be a registered school in order for veteran participants to get their housing allowances. So that has been very, very helpful recently in recruiting more veterans. We have the services that we provide to employers include no-cost background checks. We do drug testing in-house if an employer requests it. We do advisement on available work opportunity tax credits. We provide assistance with them getting accommodations and or at their request help them with tailoring job descriptions, which make it more feasible for a person with disabilities to perform that job. We have been providing training in construction since 2005 when we received our first Youth Build grant. We've had 6 consecutive grants since then. I will now turn it over to my colleague here, Denise Yogerst, who will speak directly about our pre-apprenticeship training program in construction.
Good afternoon. My name is Denise Yogerst. I am a white female with short blonde or grayish hair. I have a lavender and purple shirt on today. My pronouns are she and her. I'm really excited to be here today to talk about the good work that we're doing in San Diego to place youth with disabilities in jobs with the construction industry. At the heart of our program are our partners. We have community partners that refer people to us. We have our employer and partners that hire our pre-apprenticeships. We have our pre-apprenticeship themselves that do all the work, but most importantly, we partner with the San Diego Building Trades, Construction Trades Union. They are our partner. We use their curriculum for our pre-apprenticeship program to ensure that we're teaching skills that's up to the industry standards. Most of the apprenticeships that we serve, they're ages 18 to 24, and they have learning disabilities, substance abuse, or behavioral issues. We offer a pre-apprenticeship construction program, as Elaine mentioned. It is a blend of classroom training followed by hands-on applications. They receive 10 to 12 weeks of training. We start out doing a little bit of tool identification. Then we do some construction math with them. They learn about plumbing. They learn about electrical, carpentry, and landscape. We also teach them about building safety construction. Our pre-apprentice earn an OSHA 10 card, Red Cross CPR card. We also provide them with intense work readiness. When they enter our program, we start the first week having them identify a construction trade that they'd like to enter. We work with them throughout the training to help them apply for a registered apprenticeship program. Sometimes it takes longer than anticipated for them to get into a registered apprenticeship, so we do place them in part-time jobs. We also provide our pre-apprentice with support services such as stipends, bus passes, tools, whatever they need to get into the construction industry. We are proud that we have placed our pre-apprentice with the allied trades, which are the floors, the glazers, and the painters. We've placed them with the electrical union and the labor union. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Don Gossage, who is the program coordinator for our local building trades. John?
Thank you, Denise. Yes, again, my name is John Gosen. I'm with the San Diego Building and Construction Trades Council. My role here at the council is to oversee, excuse me, let me back up. I am a white male with short blonde hair wearing a black shirt. Thank you. I have the privilege of being able to oversee and strengthen and support ARP, apprenticeship readiness programs, that use the MC3, the multi-craft core curriculum throughout San Diego and Imperial counties. And as Denise mentioned, Able Disabled is one of our programs. We also have multiple programs throughout community colleges in both counties, where we do with emphasis on construction safety, construction math. We really try to make sure, we really want to explain to all the participants, let them know, build a solid foundation for a career in the construction industry by introducing them to all of our 22 regional construction union apprenticeships. I'll keep it short. I do want to pass it over to one of our recent MC3 certification recipients, Eliana Gomez. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Eliana Gomez. My pronouns are she and her. I am a Mexican woman wearing a white shirt who has brown wavy hair and who is wearing black frame glasses. I want to give you the time to and thank you guys for giving me the time to speak about my story with ADA. When I was going with ADA, I was given the opportunity to go into different parts of the union, to understand the fundamental value of being in the union and working alongside other students who seek the same goal as me. While in ADA, I was able to get my certification for my MC3 and my OSHA 10, and I was even able to get my CPR. With ADA, it set forth a different journey for me. Before entering ADA, I was at Summit College to get my welding certification, which thankfully and I accomplished. With ADA, it gave me another set foot into my skill trade. I was able to get the understanding of what a union can provide for me. ADA has helped me along the way with getting my first car. It's giving me the resources to understand what the workforce, as for a woman, it can provide for me. It has made my outlook on my journey more eventful. ADA has brought so much hope into my ideal stance of working. Currently, right now, I'm still in the process of looking for work. Thankful for ADA, though. I can always go back from day to day and check in with them and see what else they have for me. ADA has helped me a lot with getting the chance and opportunity to be in the workforce. So for that, I do want to say thank you. I want to thank you all for giving me the time. I am also keeping it short. There isn't that much for me to go along with my story, but I do have to say that ADA has really been a great place for people like me who seek, balance in their work and who want to get more knowledge and skill training. So for that, I want to say thank you, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you all for giving me the time to speak about my journey.
Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. Thank you, John, and thank you, especially Eliana, for sharing your story. ADA really showed us how they prepare and equip job seekers for pre-apprenticeship programs and help graduates get placed in union apprenticeship programs. This example from ADA really highlights several of the good jobs principles, especially skills and career advancement, and the importance of diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility principles. Like ACS, ADA is a great example of collaboration that helps both the business community and the employee get good jobs. Thank you both to our panelists. Sarah, I will pass it back to you. If you could share a few resources created by the Lead Center that highlight the good jobs principles and success stories.
Thank you, Anupa. And I share with you just a real appreciation for the stories that we've heard today. So we do have a few amazing resources that I want to share with you. One is that we've created this fact sheet called People with Disabilities and the Good Jobs Principles. This fact sheet will share how the Good Jobs Principles empower employers to intentionally recruit, train, retain, and promote people with disabilities in ways that are accessible to all job seekers, including those with disabilities. We also have, and this is brand new on the Lead Center page, we have an employment success stories page, and we have stories on there of employees with disabilities and other barriers to employment receiving support so that they, along with their employers, can thrive. And these stories that are on the website just really show the good jobs principles in action. So I really encourage you to visit the page and read some of the stories and stay tuned because we will be continuing to add stories to the page. We also have available on the Lead Center website the archived Good Jobs Initiative webinar, the first one that was held back in October. And if you haven't had a chance to hear that webinar, I highly encourage you to go back and hear the recorded webinar. In that, we share those strategies to support a business and employees to ensure their joint success and promote retention and opportunities for advancement. So again, I want to really thank all of the presenters that were here today. We have a couple minutes, so I thought if the presenters don't mind, and Anupa, we could probably go through at least a couple questions. So I was thinking, Anupa, they have so many questions. We're never going to be able to get through them all. but I did think that some of them that were answered were really good. So someone asked if you worked with apprentices receiving disability benefits. So I don't know if, anyone can answer that or.
Go ahead. Yeah, this is Elaine Dolores. Because we work with all disability populations, some of our apprenticeship might be getting SSI benefits because of a disability. So the answer is yes. Also, a lot of our veterans are on VA disability. So yeah, we're working with a lot of people who are receiving government benefits. And the point we made is that we want to get them off those benefits and into financial and personal self-sufficiency.
I think another great question we received is around accommodations. What kind of examples of accommodations provided to construction workers can you share?
Yeah, at ACS, we had an apprentice who had a partial hand amputation, and we actually were able to successfully place him in the telecom industry. There's lots of 5G upgrade that's been going on over the last decade, and that work is done in two manners. Sometimes it's out of lifts, and for other sites, it's tower climbing. So that apprentice was very successful because he was on the crews that used trucks that had a lift to take them to do the install. Primoris, I believe Lewis had some other examples. I think you're on mute. But Lewis was sharing, I think he's having some problems, but they were sharing how they've provided different rescue equipment and other tools and PPE and gear to many of the apprentices, as well as adjusted the travel accommodations for those individuals. Most of Primoris's work, it does require some of the workers to travel from project to project.
And one other question I see in the chat, do you receive a certificate after completion?
Yeah, ACS, all of our apprenticeships are registered programs, as I believe with our co-panelists. And so they gain not just a completion certificate from the Department of Labor, they also earn many other industry recognized certificates, whether it's through the National Center for Construction Education and Research, known as NCCER. But that completion of a DOL apprenticeship is my favorite because it's not like a degree in the sense only shows that you have completed some academic requirements, but a registered apprenticeship shows that you've completed the academic requirements, you've gained the skills, and equally as important, you have the actual experience doing this job. And that's why apprentices, as they complete an apprenticeship, DOL states that they'll earn $300,000 more during their career because they're going to be higher or easier to employ. And when they go to that next job, will get the best wages because they have that certified experience.
Thank you so much, Nick. I think we're out of time. I'm going to pass it back to you, Sarah, to wrap us up.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I really appreciate, again, that everyone here today. You can move to the next slide, please. Just want to let you know to please check out our website at the Lead Center, where you can find this event's recording and transcript within 10 business days. Also, we've got a very robust library of resources that we would love you to look at. We also encourage you to sign up for our newsletter, as it's going to give you information about future events and past events and promising practices from the field. Again, I'd like to thank all of the presenters who joined us today, Assistant Secretary Williams and Paige Shevlin and Anupa Geevarghese. Thank you so much for presenting with us. Have a wonderful afternoon.